beginning, Paris was nothing more than a quiet, riverside clearing beside the Seine. Small, dirt paths formed through the wet grass as primitive shelters slowly appeared among the forests. The tiny settlement began to grow. More straw roof huts lined the muddy ground while fishermen worked along the river, and smoke drifted into the cold morning air. Wooden defenses rose deeper within the forest as villagers crowded the riverside. Boats arrived along the shore, bringing life and movement to the growing community. As the seasons passed, the village became denser and busier. Market tables appeared between the huts while storms and rain darkened the skies. Above the expanding settlement, then Rome arrived. Stone roads slowly replaced mud paths while Roman soldiers marched through the village. And the first permanent stone buildings rose beside the Seine. Roman Paris expanded rapidly into a thriving town. Organized markets, horse carts, and stone architecture transformed the once primitive riverside into a prosperous district. Elegant Roman columns and arches began dominating the city. Crowds filled the paved streets, while trade boats continuously arrived beneath the bright midday sun. At its peak, Roman Paris became rich and monumental. Bathhouses, statues, and large apartments covered the skyline as banners waved above crowded streets. But the empire slowly weakened. Cracks spread across statues and roads while abandoned corners became overgrown. Beneath colder skies, over time the Roman city collapsed into ruin. Stone buildings crumbled away while muddy roads returned and thick winter fog covered the silent settlement. From the ruins, medieval Paris slowly emerged. Timber houses and workshops rose beside a small stone church as life returned to the muddy streets. The medieval city grew crowded and chaotic. Narrow alleys filled with merchants, riders, smoke, and rain as taller wooden buildings leaned over the streets. Soon, enormous Gothic towers began rising above the skyline. Workers hauled stone endlessly while scaffolding surrounded the growing cathedral. The cathedral climbed higher each year. Stone houses spread across the city while candlelit windows glowed beside wet cobblestone roads. Paris entered a new age of medieval prosperity. Markets overflowed with activity while completed. Cathedral towers dominated the stormy skyline. Then disaster struck. The plague emptied the streets, market stalls vanished, and funeral carts moved slowly through the cold fog. Eventually, the city recovered. Renaissance architecture replaced damaged buildings while sunlight and culture returned to the lively streets. Paris became wealthier and more refined. Decorative fountains, noble mansions, and glowing lanterns transformed the city into a center of elegance. The capital continued expanding into a cultural powerhouse. Carriages rolled through organized streets while cafes and performers filled the evenings with life. But peace would not last. Revolution spread through Paris as angry crowds flooded the streets beneath smoke, rain, and growing unrest. The chaos intensified. Cannons rolled through muddy roads, while statues collapsed and massive crowds consumed the city. Order slowly returned under Napoleon. Soldiers marched beneath imperial banners while damaged streets and buildings were rebuilt once again. Paris was reshaped completely. Narrow medieval roads disappeared as wide boulevards and elegant stone apartments transformed the city. The grand reconstruction reached its peak. Gaslights illuminated cafes and broad avenues while luxurious carriages moved through beautiful haussmann streets. Industry soon changed everything again. Smoke darkened the skyline while factories, workers, and tram tracks filled the growing city. Electric lights and early automobiles modernized Paris. Streets became faster, louder, and more crowded beneath cloudy industrial skies. Then a giant iron structure began rising above the city. The Eiffel Tower slowly climbed into the skyline as crowds gathered to watch. The tower continued growing higher year after year. Steam trains crossed nearby, bridges while cafes overflowed with artists and wealthy citizens. Paris entered the Belle Epoque. The completed Eiffel Tower dominated the skyline while theaters, cafes, and nightlife filled the glowing streets. War suddenly transformed the city. Sandbags surrounded monuments while soldiers marched through dark, rainy streets beneath smoke-filled skies. Soon, Nazi occupation consumed Paris. German flags appeared, across buildings as tanks rolled, through silent boulevards filled with fear. Liberation finally arrived. Crowds celebrated in the streets, waving French flags beneath sunlight breaking through the smoke. After the war, Paris modernized rapidly. Cranes, neon lights, cinemas, and growing traffic reshaped the recovering capital. The city became more global and energetic. Metro stations overflowed, while modern storefronts and traffic lights illuminated the busy boulevards. Modern Paris grew cleaner and brighter. Outdoor cafes, cyclists, and tourists filled the streets beneath warm golden evening light. Winter arrived across the city. Christmas lights glowed beside falling snow, while reflections shimmered across wet Parisian streets. Then the cold faded into summer celebration. Crowds packed the cafes as fireworks exploded above the skyline, ending thousands of years of Parisian evolution in one living moment.